Hi everyone! As some people missed my Python review class last week, I'm going to be explaining and reviewing some of the fundamental elements of Python. So in this video, I will be reviewing some key elements of Python, and there will also be a small project we'll be doing. So let's start. So first, how do you output data in Python? So outputting data, it just basically means to print out elements like text and numbers. Okay, so for example, you can print out hello world or 16. These are examples of data you can print out. And in order to output data, you can use the print function. So the data in the brackets right here is what will be outputted. Okay, and this is very important. If the data is text, please make sure to put quotation marks around it. So this is an example. So print hello world. Okay. So the input function, it allows the user to enter an input, and the value is automatically converted to a string. Okay, so the default data type of the variable that contains the input is a string. So that basically means that no matter what data type you enter, for example, if you enter 16, you know that's an integer, it will still be considered as a string. So if you want to be considered as an integer, you'll need to convert the string to an integer. And the required parameter of the input function is what text to display, similar to the output print function. Okay, so now let's move on to variables. So variables, they are used to store information to be referenced and manipulated in a computer program. So think of it like this. There's a box you can put, let's say, a pencil in it, right? And you can put a label and you can write pencil. So it is helpful to think of variables as containers that store information. Their sole purpose is to label and store data in memory. The data can then be used throughout your program. So we can define variables with the below syntax. So variable name is the label of the variable, and the value is the data, what data you want the variable to be. For example, you can assign x is equal to hello world, or a number, integer, for example 10. So about data types. So data types, they are a type of data. It's pretty self-explanatory. For instance, it could be a text, integer, or array. So text like hello world, integer like 18, and array, it's just a list of items. In Python, it's called list. But in other programming languages, it's called array. Each data type has its own classification. So these are some examples of some data types. So for example, there can be an integer. This is one of the basic main data types. So like 3, 300, 200, 100, 13, 12. These are all integers, okay? And floats, they are called in full floating points, but mostly we just call it floats. Floats are numbers with a decimal point. So for example, 2.3, 4.6, and 100.0. 100.0 is still a float and not an integer because it still has a decimal point, 0.0. Okay, so strings. So strings are an unordered sequence of characters. For example, hello, Sammy, and 2000. So 2000, this is still a string because it has quotation marks around it. So don't be confused to identify as a string or integer. So anything with an quotation mark in between it, around it, it is a string. And a list, it's a ordered sequence of objects. So it's surrounded, instead of quotation marks, is surrounded with square brackets. And you can put elements in it. 10, hello, 2, 100.3. It can contain different data types. It doesn't have to be one static data type. And for dictionaries, it's a little bit similar to lists. It's like you can define, it's like a dictionary. So for example, in a dictionary, this would be a word, and this would be the definition of it. So this is the key of it and the value of it. Okay, so for example, name Frankie. Okay, and between each element there's a comma. Tuples, they are an ordered immutable sequence of objects. So that means that it cannot be changed. Whatever it is, it is. It cannot be changed. Okay, and for sets, they are unordered collection of unique objects. So, for example, A and B, it's kind of similar to list, except that it's unordered. Okay? And also another common one is a Boolean. So Boolean, it's basically a logical value indicating true or false. So if statements, they are a type of conditional statement that will run as a specific block of code if the condition works true. So if A is true, then the block of code will be run. For example, it can run the code to output this works if 2 equals to 2, and I know that everyone knows 2 is equal to 2. So we can output this works. So for example, this is the block of code for 2 equals to 2. It will print out this works. Okay, so in addition to the if statement, you can also run a block of code if the condition returns false. So not only you can have an if statement, you can also have an else statement. So for example, in our previous example, if 2 equals to 2, if it's false, well, everyone knows it's not false, but in case it is, then you can print out something like, this code has a bug. Something like this. Okay? You can also not print out anything. You can just run something, like assign a variable. For example, you can print out input is greater than 2 if input var is greater than 2. So you can get the user input. If it's greater than 2, you can print out your input is greater than 2. And else, if it returns false, so the variable is smaller than 2, you can print out your input is smaller than 2. So this is the format. If condition, then you do this block of code. Remember this indent. Indentation is very important in Python. If you don't do indents here and in some else other code in Python, it will return a bug, error. Okay, and the else will be here. Else colon and then indent, and then you'll do the block of code if the condition is false. So Python for loops. So a for loop, it's used to iterate over a sequence. For example, a string. You can repeat the word hello 5 times. So it will just be hello, 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 hello. So here's an example. In this example, for x in range 5, print hello world. So this, it will print hello world 5 times. So x, it's just an empty variable. It starts automatically from 0. So in range 5, it basically means So it starts from 0. It will print out hello world when x is equal to 0. And 1, it will print it out again. So 2 times already. And then when x is equal to 2, it will print it out again. Same as 3, same as 4. Now is 5. Do we print it out? Now, this range function, it doesn't include the one that's included in the brackets. So it doesn't include the 5. So it's 1 to 4. So 1 to 4, it's 5 times. So it will print out hello world 5 times. It's not 1 to 5 times. It's 0 to 4. Okay, so remember that x starts from 0. So now let's move on to our project now. Okay, so for this project, we will be creating a number guessing game. So first, the program would be generating a number with the random.randRange function. Okay, so this function random.randRange, it generates a random integer between two integers. In the console, the user inputs guesses a number. If the number is greater than the correct number, then too large will be outputted and the user can guess again. If it's too small will be outputted. If the number is correct will be outputted and the game will end. So this is basically an overview of what it is. So let's start coding it. So this is what it will be like. Okay. So let's run this. Press the green button. Guess too large. So it will. If I enter a number, for example 7, it will display too large. And when I guess again, oops, I didn't enter a number there. Too large. Okay, so you got it correct when you guess 2. Okay, so now we're going to be coding it. So first, we need to input the random function. So this is the function that would be generating the random number. So we can say random is equal to random.randRange 1 to 10. Okay, so this is the random integer. And now we need to get an input, user input. Okay, so num is equal to input. Please guess a number from 1 to 10. Okay, and now we'll be using a for loop. So we're going to give the user, let's say, 15 chances. Okay, so we're going to check if num is correct. So if num is equal to random, then we're going to print correct. Okay, and we're going to break the for loop. So this is a keyword to break the for loop. It will exit it. So now the second case, if num is greater than random, we're going to print out too large. Okay, and then we're going to get the user to guess again by copying this line of code. So please guess again. And lastly, the third case is the case with num is smaller than random. We'll say too small. And please guess again. Okay, so this is correct. If num is too large, and the last case is if number is too small. Okay, so let's try to run this. And also there's a problem here because default this input is a string. So we need to convert this to an integer with the int function. Okay, so let's try it now. Okay, so here we need to put it here again. And here. Okay, now let's do it. Okay, so we can enter an integer. Okay, so correct, it will output. So this works now. Okay, so this is basically a small project which is a number guessing game. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments below. And that's it for this video. Thank you and for watching, and please subscribe and like if you like this video. Thank you and see you next time. Bye.